Going around Sokoto State, we see that the state has a whole lot more potential than we have seen or than you have seen on this episode of the program. So we're going to talk to the Commissioner for Information for the state. We know that the government has seen these potentials and has the passion, to harness it. So, sir, thank you so much for having us in your office.
My pleasure.
All right. Seeing that, of course, I can tell you what you have in your state. You know that more than us. But one of them that we have seen is the asphalt and dye, which is adding value to what you already have in the state. And this is just a little bit of a whole lot that you have. You have cattle, you have agricultural produce that have not been harnessed. What is the state government doing to harness these potentials of the state?
Well, fundamentally, I think the takeoff point would be, first of all, to sensitize the populace as to the need to move away from dependence on things like oil or things like other mineral resources that take a lot of time to produce, or some other resources that you cannot manage both on a small and medium scale that will require heavy machinery and all that stuff. So after that sensitization, what the government is doing now is, first of all, provide the enabling environment. That is to say, provide infrastructure, first of which is power. On the lower levels, there are efforts and, attempts to make sure that people on their own, smaller communities, smaller cooperatives, all can take care of medium and small scale farming. That is to say, improve on what they have in terms of furniture making, in terms of agriculture, in terms of yogurt making, in terms of meat making, meat factories, and in terms of so many other little things you can use as medium and small scale. You know about leather works. You know the scale of leather works that is being done in Sokoto, from what you see in terms of slaughtering a cow and using the skin to be able to, rather than export them to Morocco these days, people are beginning to learn the art of making them homemade and quality leather that they can sell.
All these things you have said are very laudable. The equipment, the projects, the investments that the government is doing. But we know that as a country, Nigeria, we have not been to this level of industrialization before. That means that our people do not have the skills, the knowledge to even operate some of the equipment that we need. So what is the government doing in the area of training people and getting them ready to handle this revolution?
There are 3 agricultural training skills acquisition centers in the state built by the Wamako administration. One is in Bodinga, one is in Bankano, and the other one is in Goronyo. They train people how to do everything that has to do with agricultural skills. Animal husbandry, poultry, including quails and birds and all of those stuff. They train regularly, and each one of them is given seed money after training to go and set up.
SMEs always, not just SMEs anyway, the big companies also, they always talk about finance. So we see a lot of state governments partnering with different parastatals of the federal government, like the Bank of Industry and all that. What is the state government doing in the area of provision of finance to empower people to take up these opportunities that it's creating in Sokoto State?
Once upon a time, in a year, maybe around 2001, 2003, only 5 Sokoto businessmen have enough money to fly to China to go and buy goods. Today, about 2013, minimum of 200 Sokoto businessmen went to China and Dubai to go and buy goods because funds were provided at that level for them to be able to invest. And today, you have so many car dealers, you have an upsurge. There are shopping malls at every roundabout now. There are so many of those things. So there's a boom that is byproduct of that 2 billion he gave to traders, Sokoto State Chamber of Commerce, 2 billion to farmers. I, as Commissioner of Agriculture, every year supervise the distribution of fertilizer in Isa local government, in Wamako local government, dry season farming, wet season farming. I supervise all those incredible. I mean, the subsidy on fertilizer, one bag of fertilizer NPK is 1,700 in Sokoto. Urea is 1,800 in Sokoto. In so many other places, they sell them at 3,000, 4,000. So government has subsidized all of this stuff for them so that we can have a boom. And that boom is taking place today. If you come to Sokoto, houses are springing up like, you know, not mushrooms, but serious, but for want of a better word, there are houses everywhere. Sama Road, Arkela, Gidan Salanke, everywhere is developing. You're talking about Sokoto that about some 10, 15 years ago had 200,000 population. Today, it's about 1.8 million.
Now, the state government is doing a lot in financing, but why are you not partnering with the Bank of Industry?
I suppose, I think what we try to do in Sokoto, as the governor has said several times, we try not to take loans that we cannot necessarily handle. We try to live within our means. And as a policy, Sokoto state government is not owing anybody. As we speak, we don't take loans. We do everything we can, frugally spend where we can. And before we even take any partnership or any joint financing, we try to be sure that we have our own counterpart funding ready. But of course, quite clearly, I think we're going to have to look into it and try to see if we can use that facility to improve the lot of the masses. But for now, as I said to you, when you spread 2 billion into a city that has some 1 million people, it goes a long way to all the traders. That's why you can see the boom, the cars, the houses, the quality of life in Sokoto is vastly improved.
Being realistic now, I'm in Sokoto State as we speak, and I mean, I'm safe. But to a lot of people in the southern part of Nigeria, once they hear about the north, they think of insecurity. Now, I'm sure with all these things that you're putting on ground, you expect more people to come into the state. It's not just for the present residents of the state. But how do you get them to think past insecurity in the north to think about investing in Sokoto State?
Let me say categorically here that even the insecurity in some other parts of the north is a temporary issue. I assure you that in the next few years, 3, 4, 5 years, all these matters will die down. We're passing through a phase where there's so much disparity between incomes. A young man who was your junior in primary school becomes a local government chairman, and you spent all your time to go to university, and you earn maybe 200,000 naira per month, and that 200,000 naira is his allowance, you know, as part of whatever, his travel allowance for 1 day trip. So that disparity has created a lot of anger between the strata of society that understand what it is to pay your bills. Now, because of all that, the anger you're seeing on the streets and some of the discrepancies like kidnappings and all that is to be able to extort money from those who have. I think gradually the realization we're going through now is that we need to bridge that gap. And we're beginning to work towards bridging that gap by providing employment. If what the federal government said the other time, they're going to be able to provide the quantity of employment they are promising, we'll get somewhere. We on our part in Sokoto, we're making sure that security is based on equity, justice, provision of jobs, and provision and an enabling environment that will engender peace. Whether you like it or not, if you drag people closer to you, all communities, and bring them closer and make them feel at home, then there won't be all these tensions. You hear the other day in Taraba, a Hausa man that was selling handsets and a Jukun man were fighting over. It's leadership. The community leaders, the governor here sits down with community leaders regularly, calls them. They tell their people, they sit with them in meetings and make sure that everybody understands that they are part of a society, one society, the way the founding fathers of Nigeria hoped it would be. At the time, Nigeria, by 1850, there was no Nigeria. It was just a set of tribes. If the white man had left us like that, maybe you would have been carrying out wars every day, the Ijayi War, the Kurumi War, the Bini War, the Aba, all sorts of wars every day will continue to, because everybody will be fighting each other. Because there's no unity and there's no understanding. But the same God that brought us together within the same area, whether it's 250 tribes, he knew why he did so. Now is the time for us to make sure that insecurity is thrown out of the window and we live in peace, because we don't have a choice. That's the first part. We don't have a choice. Because if we're going to keep quarreling every day, it will be about who is larger, who is bigger, and the bigger tribes will emasculate the smaller tribes. That is not what you want. So you create a constitution so that you can have an equal basis, because we're all equal. Especially in the eyes of God, we're all equal. As human beings, we're all equal. The Constitution provides equality for all of us. So you cannot be seen to be creating a disparity between peoples, between communities, between tribes, between segments of society, between gender.